Oh, my. Well, as I told you the story about this yesterday. I voted on Saturday. But what didn't happen to me on Saturday is apparently happening in Ohio. And Greg Palast reporting this. It's pretty amazing. If you early voted in Ohio and you were in an African-American neighborhood, you weren't like here in Washington, D.C. I just walked up to the voting machine and voted. But in Ohio, you were given an absentee ballot. Not a ballot, an absentee ballot, which can be challenged. Very, very strange stuff going on. And that's just the beginning of it. Cliff Schecter on the line with us, syndicated columnist and Ohio resident, regular guest of our program, author of The Real McCain, his website, libertasllc.com, and Twitter at Cliff Schecter. Hey, Cliff, welcome back to the program.
Thanks so much, Tom. How are you, buddy?
I am fine. I am hearing rumbles that I heard from. I heard that you had an interesting experience voting. You want to tell us about it?
I did. I live in the Cincinnati area, and Hamilton County, the county here, is the one that President Obama carried the first time a Democrat did since 1964. But it's been trending Democratic, and he's been here a lot recently because there's a growing sort of suburban and urban vote that trends his way. So they're putting a lot of their suppression efforts here. I went to my local polling place, and what I witnessed as soon as I walked in is this sort of strange-looking character, not strange, let's call him a Republican-looking character, just kind of watching over people as they were trying to sign their names and coming in to vote, taking pictures of people's signatures, going through voter registration, the table, the booklet of voter registration, and taking pictures. And so I, never being a shy one, after I was done voting, went up to him and asked him what he was doing and why he was hovering over people and looking menacingly at people.
Did you pull out your phone and take his picture?
I did, and sadly my picture came out terribly. Otherwise, it would be all over the internet right now, although I'm thinking of going back.
Yeah.
Only a few blocks from here. And so, I just made it clear to him. He said, "Oh, I'm a registered poll, I'm a credentialed poll worker, and I can be here." And I said, "Yeah, you can be here. You can't be standing over people, and you can't be intimidating people. Go sit down and get away from people." And he got upset with me, and I told him, "You know what? I'm here too, and I'm going to make sure that I'm watching you." And then he made sure that he saw my name and he wrote it down, I think, to try to scare me, which didn't really work very well. And so I called. Luckily, in my case, I would. People need to call the voter hotline, which I'm sure you have there, and sadly I forget the number, Tom, and I'm sure you're giving it to people all day. In my case, I know the Hamilton County
It's 866-OUR-VOTE, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. And so I called the Hamilton County Democratic Party, who send people over there immediately. So my guess is he was put out of business pretty quickly. But just,
well, maybe not. I mean, this guy was, I'm assuming he was one of these True the Vote goons?
He claimed he worked for the Republican Party. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they're goons too. I mean, they send their own people out, and who cares
Sure.
if they're given sort of this false patent of respectability by being an officially credentialed worker. They still, they loiter, they look over people. They're doing everything they can to make you feel like you're committing a criminal act just by coming in and voting.
Right.
And luckily this place didn't seem like anybody was backing away or being intimidated, but utterly ridiculous. So I called the party, and they told me literally they were going to send the chair of the Hamilton County Party over there, who I happen to know personally, and so I think hopefully that was taken care of.
Yeah, but this has got to be a microcosm of a macrocosm. I mean, this is like Greg Palast is writing a story about how on this last Sunday he went to an African American church, the Freedom Faith Missionary Baptist Church, and along with a cameraman. And they had a feast of sweet potatoes and banana pudding and gospel, and then they went to the one and only Sunday polling station in all of Dayton and Montgomery County, stood in line with nearly 1,000 voters. This is an 80% African-American group. Stood in line for hours. Finally, what they got was an application for absentee voters ballot. As you know, these are not real ballots. These are ballots that can be easily thrown out. According to the New York Times, 2 to 3 million such ballots were thrown out last year. African Americans' ballots are 900% more likely to be thrown out, and this is one of the reasons why we basically have two elections going on. One for Black Americans and one for white Americans, at least in the state of Ohio, apparently.
Yeah, and I would go even further to say one for Democrats, because if you're other groups that are likely to vote Democratic, Latino, and certain other groups, they're also going to try to get rid of your vote. It's ridiculous, and it really it kind of reminds me of what we went through in 2000, what we went through during the Clinton impeachment, and we're a modern democracy. We're supposed to be, and and this is embarrassing. It's really shameful, and it's something that needs to be addressed. The way we needed to have a Voting Rights Act to overturn some of the vestiges of Jim Crow, which are now we're finding have found their way back into our system. This is the electronic voting that you can't be sure if you're not getting a paper readout. I'm not even sure you can trust them then. The partisan groups registering people and throwing out their votes, which we found out with Nathan Sproul and his whole group. We really do need a new Voting Rights Act, and assuming hopefully President Obama wins and we hold him to the Senate, and I guess the House will be a bit of a problem. But this needs to be addressed nationally because it's a crime.
Right,
and it shouldn't be able to go on.
It is. By the way, I'm going to announce this. If you know the answer, don't give it because I want to run it as a contest. But we're going to give an autographed copy of "Cracking the Code," my book on the history of democracy, the history of the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, and how American democracy came about, and the difference between conservative and liberal worldviews, to the person who calls and correctly answers the question, what does John Galt have to do with our voting machines and our voting? If you think you know the answer to that question, feel free to give us a call at 866-987-THOM, and you can win a book. We're going to run this contest all afternoon. We'll see if anybody knows the answer. It's a fascinating question. I'm curious, Cliff, if you know the answer, don't say it. But do you know?
I might, yeah.
Okay. Well, when we get done, I'll put you on hold, and Louise, I think it'll shock you when you find out. And
I think honestly, I'd only be throwing out a guess. So if there's a direct connection, then I don't know the answer.
Yes, there is a direct connection, and it will blow your mind. So anyhow, here's what I'm curious about. In 2000, you've lived in Ohio for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been here since we were in Columbus first, and so I got here to Ohio in general in 2007, and I've been down in Cincinnati now for about 6 months.
Okay. I have never in my life had to wait more than 15 minutes to vote, with the exception of Saturday of this last week. Over the weekend, it took 32 minutes, which was still no big deal. But I've never lived in a swing state in a largely Democratic area. I understand that in the election of 2008, there were not long lines to vote. There was weeks and weeks of early voting because a Democrat was the Secretary of State. But that in 2000 and 2004, we had these long lines in largely African-American and Democratic-leaning districts. Is the same thing happening now? How long was your wait to vote? What are you hearing from Ohio?
Mine wasn't bad, but I don't think mine's representative because I live in sort of an area that I'd more sort of compared to a place like DuPont Circle or compared to Greenwich Village. So it's more liberal, but it also isn't, it's more economic.
It's more affluent, upscale white neighborhood.
They know that if they try to mess with people here, people tend to be pretty well know their rights.
Right.
And be pretty involved in the process, in the political process. So I haven't experienced it, but I did experience, in 2008, what you're talking about, when Jennifer Brunner was the Secretary of State here. I did go and vote early, and the line was, it was 40 minutes maybe. It wasn't ridiculous. It was fantastically done, and you knew they made sure to get out the rules to everybody, and to put this all in the hands of one local election, they don't find or call it a statewide election, the Secretary of State races. I mean, that's another thing that the Voting Rights Act needs to address, which is part
John
of
John Husted is fulfilling Stalin's old saying, it doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes.
That's exactly right.
There you go. Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC. Check it out. Cliff, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks.